I want to show you a video of a schoolyard fight. The video was taken by a student at Lindsay Thurber Comprehensive High School in Red Deer, Alberta. Now, this fight matters because it's between Syrian refugee students and Canadian students at a Canadian high school. Just watch. I know it's hard to tell what's going on in that video. Is it just a simple schoolyard fight, or is it something much different? Is it regular kids, albeit from different parts of the world, sorting things out with their fists as normal kids sometimes do? Or is it a violent clash of cultures happening in the place we trust to keep our kids safe for 7 hours every single day? It's hard to judge from that one video. And that's the whole problem here. So I'm going to tell you what we do know so far about the fight at Lindsay Thurber High School in Red Deer, Alberta, and then I'm going to tell you where we go from here. So here is what we do know so far. May 15 and 16, a total of 8 students, both Syrian refugees and Canadian kids, were involved in 2 separate incidents. The earlier incident, a fistfight, occurred off campus at a skateboard park, and another subsequent fistfight happened the very next day on campus at lunch hour. Now, according to the principal of Lindsay Thurber High School, Dan Lauer, the skate park incident arose out of an alleged misunderstanding due to a language barrier between 2 grade 9 boys. Lauer said the Syrian boy thought something derogatory was said toward a Syrian girl, and to quote the principal, it ended up in a couple of punches being thrown. Now, this was all off school property. The principal doesn't say who threw those first punches, and I think that matters here, don't you? Then on May 16th, the very next day, a Canadian student confronted the Syrian refugee students at lunch to find out what happened with the first fistfight, and, of course, a second fistfight broke out, and that was the fight that I showed you earlier. But this is all just according to the principal, who wasn't there for the first fistfight and who seems to be acting as a bit of a spokesperson for these Syrian refugee kids. I want to know more about these 2 incidents, and I bet you do too. Is it really a language barrier at work here, or is it more of a cultural one? Now, I've spoken to one parent who says her son was defending another boy during the lunch hour fight against a gang of Syrian refugee students, and he ended up being suspended for his intervention. The whole series of fights prompted a protest at the school, with about 40 protesters expressing concern about the lack of integration of the Syrian students into our Canadian culture. And at first, there were rumors that the school had not treated the Syrian kids with equal punishment as the Canadian students, that the Syrians had not received suspensions at all, or that they had received suspensions that weren't nearly as long as the Canadian students because the Syrians didn't understand the gravity of solving their problems with violence. Now, Principal Dan Lauer sent an email to the school's parents, which I have a copy of, where he states that all students who hit anyone during that Tuesday brawl were given a 5-day out-of-school suspension, the maximum allowed under the School Act here in Alberta. The email went on to talk about inclusion, justice, fairness, and equality, but it left out some things. Some things went unanswered, at least for me. And I'll get to that in a minute. Now, for what's next. I've been inundated with emails about this story. People want to know the whole truth, whatever the whole truth is. What all those emails mean to me is that, unlike the rest of the mainstream media, people trust us at The Rebel to find the facts and follow them wherever those facts may take us. Do you remember last April, our Faith Goldie reported on the story of Syrian refugee children choking, hitting, and abusing other students at Shabukto Heights Elementary School in Halifax? It was a story other media outlets refused to cover, and the one outlet that did, the Chronicle Herald, deleted their story because they were worried about expressing more cultural sensitivity towards those who were doing the choking of those Haligonian children. And just like that story, I want all of you to know that I'm doing whatever I can to get to the bottom of this mess. And we're not like the mainstream media. We aren't going to read the school's press releases and emails and consider the story over and done. And we certainly won't self-censor out of cultural sensitivity either. This story is so important. And because it's so important, I'm taking the time to gather all the facts without hysteria, to get it right, and to cut through the internet rumors and all the innuendo. I've emailed the school looking for answers to other questions I have. I want to know, is this an ongoing problem at the school? Are there cultural and religious tensions at the school? Were there weapons involved in the fight? Was anyone injured? What were the responses of the parents involved from both sides? I've also been in contact with witnesses to the fight. I'll bring you whatever additional information they can provide to me. And rest assured, like I always do, I have filed for access to all the relevant documents from the school board, and I'll report on those documents as soon as I get them. Now, I'm a parent. I have 3 kids in Alberta schools too. I want to know that they're safe at school, just like you do, just like every parent does. And that's why this story is resonating with so many people. It's about our kids, the most important things we will ever have in our lives. Now, if you have any tips, or if you're a witness to either of these fights, or if you're a parent of one of the students involved in the fights, because I won't talk to your kids without your permission or your consent or your knowledge, please contact us at tips@therebel.media, and I'll do my best to chase down all the tips and all the leads so we can tell Albertans the truth instead of acting as press secretaries for a very worried school board. For therebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunreed. Getting access to government documents can sometimes carry a pretty hefty bill, and we don't get any taxpayer dollars like the CBC. To help cover the costs of our Freedom of Information investigations, go to whatissehiding.com and donate today.